So let's get right on into it. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And if you can see it, let me know. Thumbs up. Screen is good. All right, cool. Speaking, so it's going to be interesting, and let's make sure. What you're looking at right here is just a few of my accolades, and I really had gotten used to this idea that what I had built was strong and super and powerful. I was speaking all across stages across the globe. I have a podcast that is featured in 90 countries. I was named Forbes 11 most inspiring female entrepreneurs to follow on Instagram. And I had been featured in the Huffington Post, Success, Latina magazine. I was on tour with Tori Johnson. And I really felt like I was just on top of my A game. And as you can see on the top left, I was speaking at an event, at my event, Confidence Activated in Atlanta. And it was one of the most incredible moments of my life. And I don't know if you've ever been at a point in your life, in your career, in your business, or just in something that you're so passionate about that you are on the highest high. Well, that's where I was. We had over 200 women in this room. Everyone was feeling great. We had just done $100,000 in sales. And I'm not talking accounts receivable. I'm talking cash in hand sales. And so I leave Atlanta. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to just serve and pour into these. And immediately, I got nervous, but I said, no, I'm sure it's nothing, but let me just go ahead and see what this is anyway. And so I decided to call the doctor, and the nurse advice said, go in, get an ultrasound, and let's see, but it shouldn't be anything to worry about. So I go, and they say, you have a complex cyst. And I thought, well, are there simple cysts? Like, what does that even mean? What is a complex cyst? And she says, well, some cysts have just fluid and others have debris. And what we see is that your particular cyst has some debris. I'm sure it's nothing, but you'll want to follow up. And it was interesting because it was in that moment that all of a sudden I began on this fight to be seen and heard. And I had been in that journey as an entrepreneur, right? There's saturation in almost every market. So there's always this pressure to be seen, to be heard. Is our content going to get likes? Are we going to get the engagement? Is the sponsor going to pick us up? But I had never fought to be seen and heard for my life. And what happened was the doctors were not taking me seriously. No one wanted to see me right away. I was told that my primary care doctor could not see me for 6 weeks and that I would have to wait to be seen by the primary care before I could get a referral to get a mammogram to then maybe get a diagnostic. And all of this was going to take a lot of time. And I remember calling and saying, I don't think you understand. There's a lump in my breast and I'm not waiting 6 weeks to be seen. So I pushed and I championed, and I went and I got something done called a thermography. And I know you might be thinking, wait a second, what does all of this have to do with business and personal development and speaking? And I want to be on stage. Well, stick with me because I'm going to show you how all of this is going to come to a full circle. But first, you have to understand that in order to be an effective speaker, you have to be an effective storyteller. So I start calling and I start telling my story to anybody that will listen. I have this lump, it's a complex cyst, they can't see me, can you see me? And I called and finally I got an appointment for thermography, and the results came back inconclusive. Now, when the results came back inconclusive, my circle of friends told me, oh, you're good. If it was cancer, it would have lit up like a Christmas tree. And it made me think about to people around us and we ask them, what do you think? What do you think? And we're getting the opinion and feedback of people who have never been where we're trying to go, who have never been in that experience to provide any kind of guidance. But there was something in me that was like, this ain't quite right. So I pushed and finally, I got an appointment with a surgeon. And he touched and he felt it. And he said, I see we have a friend trying to join us. I'm going to stop the screen share. How about that? Is that okay? Because I really cannot. There we go. Let's let our friend Rachel Lewis in. Hi, Rachel. Welcome. Okay, we're going to go like this. That way we can continue because I really want to add value. So here I am. The surgeon feels around and he says, you're young, you have no factors for breast cancer. It's probably nothing. Let's wait and see, come back in 3 months. Now, this is the point where we are looking at people who seem to know more than we do and who are the experts. And typically we would defer to their expertise and say, yeah, you know better. And I'll tell you what, when you're looking down the barrel of a gun, of a weapon, right? Because that's what a lump feels like, it's a weapon. You're thinking to yourself, phew, there's no bullets, it's not loaded. Because the surgeon said, let's just wait and see. My mentor said, you're good to go. But something in me said, you better don't. That's how my mom says, you better not. You better don't. You better don't leave without figuring out what's wrong with you. So I looked at him and I said, you're crazy if you think I'm leaving here without a diagnostic. And he says, well, didn't you have a mammogram? And this is when I realized that no one, no doctor, no mentor, not even your significant other, no one will have your best interest at heart the way that you will. No one will pay attention to your case or your business or your life the way you will. And I said, my chart is right in front of you. You didn't see? I have never had a mammogram. What are you talking about? Get me in for a diagnostic. And I got real Puerto Rican on him. I said, you better get me seen yesterday, immediately, if not sooner. So I press and I get seen the very next week across the street at Hill Breast Center. And I knew something was wrong right away. Because when they did the ultrasound, the technician looked and she said, I don't know what that is, but if you need to come back, you should see Dr. Beth. You're rolling your little machine on titties all day long and you don't know what you're looking at. You better don't play me, lady. But she couldn't say anything else. That was July 2nd. That was July 1st. They decide right then and there to do a biopsy. And I go on my merry way. They said, we'll let you know in a couple days. Now I'm scheduled to go to DC. And so I go about my business. And the very next day I get a phone call. And it's that same doctor that said to me, don't worry, it's nothing. You don't have any of the factors. You're young. Come back in 3 months. And he called and he said something, invasive ductal carcinoma. And you have to understand, because as he said those words, I was walking with my 2 daughters who at the time were 9 and 11. And we were walking to the park and the world came out from under my feet, but I couldn't show any emotion because my babies were here and I'm the mom. And if I'm not right, if I show them that my world is not right, then their world is definitely not right. And I listened and he said something, but it was like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. And I said, I'm sorry, what does that mean? And he said, it's cancer. And I took a breath and I said, is there any chance? And before I could even finish the sentence, he cut me off. No, it's cancer. It's not a mistake. And I took a breath and I looked at my children and I looked up at the sky, and it was a gorgeous day. And it felt like for the first time ever, I could see that the leaves were green. It was a shade of green I had never seen. It was brighter green. And I took a deep breath in through my nose, and the air smelled crisper than I had ever smelled it, crisper than any winter morning. You know that crisp winter smell? And I said to the doctor, okay, well, what now? And he said, well, let's get you in right away. You know, we want to get to this as soon as possible. And as he said it, now all of a sudden I was back in my body. Yeah, because for a moment I left. But all of a sudden I got back in my body, and I literally looked at the phone because it dawned on me that this very same man that had told me come back 3 months from now was now in a rush. Come back, let's get you in here right away. And I said, okay, thank you, but I won't be going back to you. And I hung up the phone. I called my mom and I said, well, I got a call from the doctor today. And she said, and that was the beginning of my awakening into the question I had never asked myself before that moment. Is my business set up to survive me? Have I done everything I can in this thing that I've been building up for all these years so that if I'm not here, it continues and these little girls are provided for? That my husband, whose dream was to live in a house like the house that we live in now, that's almost 4,000 square feet. You have to understand, I grew up in, low class New York City, and my husband grew up in Mexico where they don't even have roads. So we are the American dream. But a lot of this dream is funded by me. He does a lot, by the way. No shade to the hubby. He had the good medical insurance, thank God, that covered all the things. But if I was not here, would they be able to stay in this house? Would they have the things that they have now? I began to assess, what am I doing in this business? And will it be able to survive without me? And there were 3 things that I realized I needed in place. Number 1, and you should be taking notes at this point. Number 1 is a sustainable business model. Is your you.com, right? Like my brand is rachelluna.biz, it's me.com. Is your you.com, is your business set up in a scalable way so that if you need to take a leave of absence or if you need to step away from the business forever, it will continue to generate monthly recurring revenue, daily recurring revenue? Do you have something in place that if it's not set up that way, that maybe the assets that you've acquired in the business can be sold off and that money put into a trust? Have you created sustainability for your family, for the people that you love? Number 2, do I have SOPs, standard operating procedures? If I needed to step away, can we hire a team to be me, to do the things that I've been doing? Can they do what you do? If you don't have this in place, today's your wake-up call. Figure out who can be you in the interim when you need to step away. And number 3, I had to become radically honest with the team that I had. I had to give myself permission to offend, because up until this point, I had been coddling my team. So whenever they didn't do something quite right, I would just step in. And now I realize, like, we can't play that game anymore. If they don't know how to do their job, fall on their face. We have to take the L, and then we have to get up, fix it, help them learn, go back and SOP this bad boy, and continue to run drill after drill after drill. They have to understand that they are as responsible for this business as I am. Because if they drop the ball and something happens to me, that's their paycheck. So we're in this together. And then finally, the fourth thing I had to learn was I had to learn how to manage my energy. Because what got me sick in the first place wasn't an accident. It was me trying to be everything to everybody all the time. It was me hustling and grinding because I was listening to Cardone and Gary Vaynerchuk and hustle, hustle, hustle and grind, 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 but never taking care of myself, of my energy, of my mindset, and not being a true leader to set the example for my team and my family. So we made radical shifts in a very collapsed amount of time. And what I discovered was, although I'm a phenomenal coach, I have already built up several women in my community, in my programs, to be great coaches. So when I went away for the treatment, I went to Mexico. And by the way, I didn't do conventional chemo and radiation, although I did do a form of chemo and I did lose my hair. And that's the picture you see on the screen there. But I went to Mexico. Guess what? They didn't need me. I still showed up, but there were a couple times where I was too sick. There were a couple days where I just didn't have the energy, but I had people that I had put in place and in power. I had empowered them to stand in the gap for me. Do you have someone empowered to stand in the gap for you? And so after I was done with my treatment and it was all said and done, every single person who had invested in that mastermind, because remember, all this started right at the end of my live event where I had sold this mastermind and I had collected $100,000 cash that I couldn't give back because I needed it for medical treatment. So my question to you today is, do you have a business that will outlive you? Now, let's talk about what just happened here and what I've done. What did I teach you how to do? Number one, I taught you how to tell a story that gets your audience paying attention. Number two, I gave you practical steps and I told you when to take notes, right? And is your name Pierre? Am I saying that right?
Pierre.
Did I say it wrong? Correct me.
Pierre.
Oh, that's way. Pierre. I'm doing it wrong. Say it again. Say it again. One more time.
Pierre.
Pierre. It's so much prettier when you say it, but I'm going to work on it. But when I said you should be taking notes, I saw you right away. Now, I don't know if you were writing love letters to whoever, but I saw you spring into action. And that's what you want to do when you have an audience. So the first thing I want you to understand is that number one, you need to know your audience, know what stage they're in, have an idea of what they're looking for. Number two, you feel some emotions when I was telling you that I had been diagnosed with cancer. Did you envision what the air must have smelled like when I told you it was crisp? Did you think about what the leaves look like when I said they were the brightest green leaf, right? So we're using very elaborate context so that you can evoke a feeling and an emotion in your audience. You want them with you, engaged in the story the entire time. You want to give practical steps. And then I did something called the bounce back. Now, typically, when I'm not trying to control a screen and making sure that I'm letting people in, I can pay attention and see who's responding, right? So when you're in an audience, you want to do something called the bounce back. And that's where you ask a question where the audience has to answer and say, oh yeah, me too. So I asked you one of those questions. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever been there? You ever experienced that? Anyone ever tell you this? So the reason you want to do that is so that the story is not just about you, but so that your audience member can insert themselves in the journey with you, or at least feel like they understand what you're talking about. Because if you don't have bounce back, and usually I would talk for much longer and there would be more engagement questions. I might throw out something about how many people in here feel that their business model is sustainable, and we'll do a hand raise. Or I'll say, when was the last time you allowed yourself to offend someone in your business? When was the last time you spoke up for yourself and allowed yourself to offend your significant other? And we'll do a little more bounce back and we'll get audience engagement, but you want them in it with you. And then I end because I want them to walk with one major, not just the takeaway to think about, but something to take action on. That is how you become a compelling, powerful storyteller on stage. And when you have them in this position with you, right? Now, again, I just super condensed, but when you have them in on this position, can I teach you how to turn this into a sale? Can I show you the way that
Yes,
if I were
please.
doing this and I wanted to, okay. So if I were doing
Yes,
this and
please.
I wanted to make this, I gave you 4 steps, right? I said you need a sustainable business model. You need standard operating procedures in place. You needed to learn how to have radical honesty and give yourself permission to offend. And you needed to learn how to manage your energy. So I would now,
Rachel, you cut out. All right, everybody, bear with me. I'm going to see if we can get her back in.
all right, we're back. Let's keep going. By the way, this is going to happen, right? You're going to be on, and all of a sudden, your mic is going to cut out. Something is going to go wrong with the presentation. You're not going to be able to pull up your slides. You need to make sure that you have, I heard some background. You need to make sure that you're prepared in advance, because if your slides get cut off, if your audio gets cut off, if your mic doesn't get cut on, can you keep going? Okay. And by the way, this has happened to me multiple times. One time I was talking on stage and literally a fly flew into my mouth while I was talking. But here's the thing. Here's the difference between like an amateur and a professional. The amateur will be like, oh, sorry guys, hold on a sec. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Look, all kinds of things are happening. Oh shit, I almost poured water into my, sorry for the curse, but into my electrical outlet. All the things go wrong, right? Can you use this in the story? So when the bug flew in my mouth, I was talking about how people are always trying to stop you. And I said, a bug just flew in my mouth. You see, that's how it is. Satan, get behind me. You're not going to stop me from telling these people what's happening, right? So can you use the things that go wrong into your presentation? So here we are. We've got our 4 steps. And I'm asking you, who here feels that they have created a sustainable business model? Raise your hand. Can your business outlive you? Okay, 1. Look around. I have everybody look around. There's no shame. If you see someone sitting next to you that their hand is raised, become friends with them. Figure out how you can add value into their life and continue to learn from them. Okay, who here has standard operating procedures in place for everything? Raise your hand. Okay, So take a note. This is an area where you need to work on. And I go down and down and down the questions, right? And then I say, if you did not raise your hand to say yes to every single question, then I solve all of that in the next 3 to 6 months. Is that something that you're interested in? Of course, they'll be like, heck yeah, help me make my business survive, right? Now, what will happen is you'll see some people, there will be some people in the audience that are gonna be like this. There are gonna be some people in the audience that are gonna do like this. And look at you kind of sideways. We're not paying attention to those people, right? Who are we paying attention to? We're paying attention to the people that have just raised their hand or said yes. You're also looking for the people that do one of these. That little like sneak hand, like I don't want to admit it. And so now you can take a direction. You can either speak to their pain or speak to their aspiration. You're not going to go wrong with either way. Some people feel more comfortable speaking to the pain. Other people feel more comfortable speaking to the aspiration. So if I'm going to speak to the pain, I would go in on my story about, look, I'll tell you right now, nothing felt worse, but the cancer was bad enough. But you know what really scared me? Not being prepared, not doing the things that I'm going to show you how we did, what we did, so that my business, if God forbid anything happened, can go on without me. Because nothing feels worse than that pain of knowing that I had all this opportunity to make things right and I squandered my chance. I wasted my time trying to figure out Facebook ads and how to learn how to do landing pages and email marketing, but I never thought about monthly recurring revenue. I never thought about creating a proprietary system. I never thought about, and I'll go into all the things, right? I'm hitting on the pain. Then from there, I'll say, so here's what I'm going to do right now. We're going to go into a break. But before we go into a break, I want to know who are the 20 people in here that want to go on this journey with me, where I'm going to show you how those principles that you need to have locked and loaded in your business so that it can survive without you. Who are my 20? Raise your hand. When they raise their hand, then I'll say, okay, this is the link. It's up on the screen. When you register for that, we're going to meet during the break. I'm going to bring you up to my suite, right? If this is a live event. If we're on a virtual, I'll say we're going to go to a break, but those 20 of us, we're going to go into a breakout room. And in the breakout room, I'm going to tell you your next steps for how we move forward together. And then we give them the link. Now, let's say you want to go aspirational. I'm going to speak to the legacy part. I'm going to say, look, chances are you're going to be here for a long, long, long time. Can you see that? Can you imagine yourself old and gray? And then I'll tell another story, right? Because why do we want to tell the story? We want to connect it. So I'll say something like, I'm trying to be 93 at the very least before I leave this earth, because my friend Andrea and I have this pact. And we said that when she's 90 and I'm 3 years older than her, so I have to live longer, we are going to jump out of airplanes together, because it would be irresponsible to jump out of an airplane a day before 90. We want to make sure our kids are old and gray. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, nobody's trying to be a reckless parent now, but we decided 90 is the perfect age. So I want to live till I'm 90, but I don't want to work until I'm 90. I actually like the idea of leaving behind a legacy for my family. How many of you tithe in here? Now, look, you got to know who your audience is, right? My audience, they're tithers, they're churchgoers. So I'll say something like, how many of you tithe in here? Okay, how many of you want to tithe? And then yeah, me, but I can't afford it. Wouldn't it be amazing if every year you were tithing $100,000? Wouldn't it be amazing if you could live like Kim and Kanye on a reverse tithe lifestyle? How many people want that? So now we're speaking into something like way bigger. There's no pain involved in this. There's only aspiration. They're going to say yes, yes, yes. Then I'm going to say, this is easy. All you need to do is create a sustainable recurring revenue model. Look at KKW. She's got her multiple streams of income. She's got diversification, and she's selling makeup whether she turns on Instagram or not. It's happening. Whether she shows up or not, she's already created this recurring revenue model. You need your SOPs in place. So I'm going to reiterate again all the things they need. And then I'm going to say something like, how many of you feel like you're ready to go do this? Yeah. Then I'm going to say, well, guess what? You feel really good right now, and your brain actually thinks that you've done something. Let me tell you a little bit about neuroscience and how things work in the brain. The brain doesn't know the difference between the truth or a lie. So right now, we're here in this la la land, we're visualizing, we're on the yacht with KKW. Maybe they're not going to be together, but at least Kim is there. And, you know, we're out there with the Ks. But that didn't really happen, and your brain thinks you've done something. Your brain has actually convinced you that just by being in this room, being in this presentation, you've made massive changes. Let me remind you, you haven't. And what's really going to happen is you're going to have about 12 to 24 hours. Some of you can maybe even go 72 hours of like high intensity enthusiasm, and you might get a few things done. But unless you have the accountability, the support, the structure, the framework that I've laid out for you, and someone like me and the coaches on my team checking in with you, supporting you, encouraging you, giving you the templates, showing you how to create a proprietary signature, you're going to struggle. So do you want the faster way? Because there's no fast, there's no easy, right? There's a faster way, but it's still going to take time. Or do you want to struggle on your own? And maybe some of you won't struggle, but let's just be real. If you had even thought about doing this stuff and you had the commitment, the discipline, the desire, the structure, the habits, if you had all of that in place, you would have done it already, right? Yes or yes? Some of you want to say no. Okay, where are my rebels at? Then I'm going to speak to all the different types of people in the audience. Not all the types, let me rephrase. I'm going to speak to all the people that I enjoy working with. I like working with rebels. I like working with people that don't want to really do it I like working with people who have big visions and who love the idea of a KKW yacht party. And then I'll say the same thing. So where am I 20 at? Or my 100 or whatever the number is. So here's your next step. And when we come back from the break, I know some of you are going to have questions and you're going to want to know. That's fine too. I'll get with you. But here's the gift for those that are early action takers. Because I reward people who are trend setters. I reward people who know how to make decisions and make those decisions work. And then I would say some sort of bonus. And then I'll say, okay, some of you are just ready to go. Some of you are really scared and you're like, I'm ready to get out of here and I don't ever want to come back and see her again. And if that's you, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. For those that are like, okay, wait, my edges are like snatched all the way back and my glasses are sweaty and like, okay, I need to come back. We'll be back in 20 minutes, okay? But before we go, I want you to look at your neighbor. Don't touch each other and don't even get in each other's faces, okay? We're COVID safe here. But just look at someone, if we're on a line, I'll say just find someone in the comments or find a participant and just send them a message and say, my business will outlive me. But only say it if you mean it and if you're willing to do the work to make it happen. Deal? And then they'll say, deal. And then I'll say, okay, well, stand up, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause because you're about to do what most people won't. And then I make them clap for themselves and then we're out the door. But everything is tying in the story, the emotion, the empathy, and the juxtaposition in the conversation, that back and forth. So, who here is ready to build a business that will outlive them? Nobody. Then they laugh. Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's break it down. Questions. Let's dissect.
That was amazing, by the way. I definitely heard so many gems, and like you really took us on the journey. You took us on the journey of what we came here to talk about. So that was, I just wanted to say that before anybody got into any questions. Thank you.
Questions.
So I guess my question is, how do you choose like your business model if you don't really know who your audience is?
Okay, so that's always the hardest part I find with entrepreneurs, because it sounds to me, if you don't know who your audience is, you're interested in a lot of things, right? There's like so many things you could do. Are you multi-passionate?
Mm-hmm. Oh, she froze.
All right. Let's see. Okay, Rachel hopped out, so I think she's going to be rejoining here shortly. Okay, awesome. Here you go.
Sorry, if it cuts out, just stand by. I will be back, but hopefully I've
You're
adjusted.
good. Thank you.
Okay, so you're multi-passionate, right? There's a lot of things that you're interested that you could be doing. Is that right?
Yes.
So the best advice I've ever gotten, and I got this a piece of advice from a man that is basically Eric Thomas's like right hand man, silent business partner. You hardly ever see him. It's this white dude. He said, make a decision and make it work. So what you're doing today, like whatever business you start today, it may not look the same way 5 years from now, right? When I started my business almost 10 years ago, I was a life coach. I'm a certified master coach now, but I was life coaching layman, I guess, like 9-to-5ers. And I didn't like it at all. And it took trial and error. It took going out there and doing something to figure out who I liked working with and who I didn't like working with. Now, here's the mistake that I put coaches underneath me, or I would have taken everything that I was doing then and packaged it into solo self-study programs, because then that would have kept making me money. Thank you, sweetie. All the way through as I evolved and developed other businesses. So what are you most excited about right now?
Oh, are you asking me that?
Yeah, I'm asking.
So for this business in particular, what we're talking about, BNLI, we are seeking to transform the way people see performative allyship into like actionable plans.
Okay.
So what that looks like and how that looks is still like on the table. So I am having trouble, one, explaining what it is. Like, I think the definition of like performative is still so new that it's hard to get people to buy into it or understand it. And then allyship is a word that's just like now being thrown around. So I think I still need to put definition to it and then have people ascribe to that. But that's been the hardest part, is just like trying to tell the story and then say, this is what we need and this is why we need it. So I know for sure we will be speaking to like aspiration, because we're trying to build a legacy. We don't want to talk about the pain. We want to talk about how we can move from here.
Mm-hmm. So really what I'm hearing is the importance of educating your audience, because people don't really understand. A lot of people don't even understand what performative means and the motives behind performative allyship. So I would start by first investing some time in thinking about who are the people that you really want to serve and help them overcome this issue. And do those people have the money to pay you? Because if they don't, then you're looking at a different business model. If they don't have the money to pay you, then you're probably going to want to look into creating some sort of a nonprofit version or getting corporate sponsor. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Then from there, there are so many ways that you can go. Like off the top of my head, I'm always trying to think of what are scalable things that you can introduce into the market that not only can you sell on your website, but maybe you can do partnerships with other companies and have them sell. So maybe something like a card deck with conversations about study, small one-off workshops. So these are things that you create one time, but they can continue to be sold day in and day out. You get yourself one really good funnel and great ads, and that'll just keep going on its own without you.
Okay.
Okay.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, that was great advice. Does anyone want to hop in with any questions next?
You have one more? Come on. Yeah, if you have another one, good. Don't leave without your questions being answered. I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make, is like, well, I don't want to be the one asking all the questions.
PJ.
I don't want to be the one asking all the questions. Like, this is really important for you to understand. Like, it's your ability to be relentless about getting your questions answered, being willing to look like the person, like, man, she asked so much, so what? I'm here, I have a need, you offered, don't offer me something you're not willing to actually deliver on. Call people out, keep them accountable.
So that is the question. So with understanding that we're talking about like performative allyship and asking people to sit in that space of uncomfortability, like how can it be done effectively to where it's not turning people away? So I guess how do we communicate that?
Yeah, because you have to recognize that there is already right now a sector of the market that do not want to be performative, that are already willing to sit in that, discomfort, and they're looking for a teacher. Those are the people that I would start with. Those are the people that I would center my marketing around, because really, and I could be going on a limb here, but what I'm really hearing you say is like, I need a couple white people that are going to recognize that they're going to have some uncomfortable conversations so that the performative allyship can be put to an end, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So those white people exist. And what you want is you want those white people up in your club, because once they get it, they will tell their white friends that are hard-headed, that are afraid to sit in the discomfort with you, but will sit in the discomfort with them.
I get it. So I only have to do it once. Then it's
So here's the thing. Once you get your first, like, few white ambassadors, right? I have no correct term for it, okay? Performative allyship destroyers, whatever you want to call them. It's going to be up to you to empower them to be the mouthpiece, right? And say, look, let's talk about roles and responsibilities of an ally. And here's what that means. I'm going to pour into you, and it's going to be up to you to talk to your friends that would never talk to me. Talk to you. It's going to be important for you to talk to your friends that are too afraid to sit in the discomfort, and get them on board with understanding that this is a safe space for them, and then bring them in. So you have to really give them that permission, because understand that the people that are interested in not being performative are also going to be afraid to be a spokesperson, because they will say, well, I'm not a spokesperson. I'm not going to take that place of a Black woman or, a Black man. I'm just here to create a safe space. And they need to understand that part of creating the safe space is talking to the people that won't even come into the space.
That's
is that wonderful. Helpful?
Yes, that is.
Amazing.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I have one question.
Oh, please do.
So like a lot of the entrepreneurs in our community are first-time entrepreneurs, bootstrappers, not your typical hedge fund babies or individuals that were born into wealth, right? Underserved, underrepresented. What is some of your advice for overcoming like imposter syndrome, right? Because that's something that's so huge for first-time founders in our community, is kind of being able to step into who they really are and overcome that imposter syndrome.
So I've been talking a lot about imposter syndrome lately, and this is not a Rachel Luna original. I heard this from someone else, but she said, only real people, authentic people for a second, because I see that, oh, there we go. Okay, it paused for a second, but I'll say that again. Real, authentic people never struggle, or are the only ones that struggle with imposter syndrome. Fake people never feel imposter syndrome because they're fake. They don't understand. So when you feel that imposter syndrome, that is just an opportunity for you to check in with yourself and number one, remind yourself, I'm only feeling this because I have integrity. Then ask yourself, I don't know what I'm talking about, or am I afraid of judgment? Imposter syndrome is really rooted in the fear of people are not going to think I'm qualified, or people are going to look at me and say, who does she think she is? Who does he think he is? And you have to be willing to embrace judgment. One thing that has helped me embrace judgment is, I always say, if people are judging me, that means I've got their attention. They're listening to me, they're paying attention long enough to form a judgment, right? Because think about it. You're only judging when you've actually taken the time to look and say, let's see who they think they is, right? If we look at how many people watched the inauguration yesterday, and man, J-Lo just got slammed, right? For everything, from her outfit to the song, to the fact that she threw in the Let's Get Loud. But listen, for you to have gotten all the way to the Let's Get Loud, you were watching her for like a good 3 minutes, rather than looking at her and just rolling on by and dismissing. So are you willing to sit in the judgment of others? And do you believe in your mission more than you care about the opinions of people who will never buy your product or who won't buy it now? Because one thing that we get to embrace as well is that some people are not ready now, but give them a couple years, they will come back. I've had people say to me, I'll never forget, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this girl sent me a message and she said, listen, I just need, actually, she didn't send me a message. She posted about this on social media and someone sent it to me. Rachel Luna, and I had to unfollow her because she was just doing her thing. And every time I saw her, I didn't like it. But I don't know how her podcast came up in my feed, and she's my best friend and she doesn't even know it. I'm on her email list. I follow her. I like all her stuff and she doesn't even know who I am. And so someone sent this to me and I reached out to her. I said, hey, tell me your story. And she just said, I could not follow you anymore because every time I saw you, I felt bad about me. And we have to understand that when we're doing big things, we're just holding up a mirror and it's showcasing to that person all the action that they are not taking. Every time you win, it's reminding them that they're not even in the game. So they don't even have a chance, but they will come back. Had another woman who paid me thousands of dollars to be in my mastermind and then ghosted. Never showed up. I called her. I had my team. We sent her, we did everything we could to be there. And I'll chase you for a little bit, especially if you've already paid me thousands of dollars. But at some There we go. I was just texting you like, I'm coming back, don't worry. But my point is, people will come, people will go. Some will, some won't, so what? We don't have time to be worried about the people that are not resonating. We need to focus our attention to the one and the two that are. And one thing I have always lived by is that an audience of one is still an audience. And you don't know who that one person is connected to. Because I can tell you right now, it only takes one person to know somebody that's super connected before you start getting opportunities. And that's what has happened to me. Time and again, it's been one person that's connected to me to one other person who connected me to like 500 people.
Did we lose you, Rachel?
I'm here. I don't know what's going on. An audience of one is still an audience. And if you remember that, when you launch your thing and only one person shows up, you won't feel as bad. You'll still feel a little bit bad. I'm not gonna lie. You still will, especially if you put like a lot of time and energy into it and like 5 people show up, you're like, ugh. But just remember, if you change one person's life, you didn't just change one life. You have impacted and affected the lives of all the people around that one person. Because when you help them change, they will help someone else change and transform. Was that helpful?
Very helpful. Very. That's awesome. I wish we could talk to you some more hours. I mean, you keep dropping gems.
Well, have me come back hopefully when my Wi-Fi is better. We're getting, I'll just tell you quickly, we moved the modem because EMFs, electromagnetic field energy, is really bad for your cells. And as I'm still healing from breast cancer, we wanted to get the modem out, but now it's on the other side of the house. So my husband's like, I'm gonna get this, there's a sling box you can get, and we still won't put it in here, but I'll be better prepared next time, sorry.
No worries. We were able to work through it. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So thank you so much. If we what we'll do is we'll put your contact information for anyone in the cohort to follow up. This recording will also be available for the group. So if anyone has any questions and want to reach out, we'll definitely forward them directly to you.
Sounds great. I'm here to serve, and anything I can do to support all of you, I am here and at your service. And thank you so much for your time and attention.
All right, Rachel. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Everyone have a good night. Thank you all for coming out to the workshop, and we'll be in touch. Everyone enjoy the rest of your week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yo, just before you go,
Thank
Josh,
you.
good job on the videos. I've been seeing all that work on social media. It's been dope.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I've been
Sir.
get it going.
Awesome, guys. All righty. Well, we'll be in touch. Rachel, I'm going to shoot you a call. Okay, I think we're froze again. All right. All right, everyone. Good night.